want to talk more about chaos.
Let's talk about chaos.
I want to talk about mind control, and like I really think that, I know Tom didn't want to speculate too much, and I get that, but I'm here to speculate. I think mind control has evolved into, you know, they've infiltrated social media. We know they infiltrate the news, and that these people want to create realities that they want you to believe in. Like,
can you give me 1 second?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know we can get back to this. I just want to try this one more time.
Yeah, try it.
Brian, I'm giving you one more shot. Are you there? No. I lowered you, but you sound like you're underwater.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Sorry,
it didn't work out, Brian. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. The Bugliosi stuff should really scare people. I mean, Manson's obviously terrifying that this happened, that he was able to basically coerce, puppeteer people to do his murders, and the fact that he might have been, and I believe he was, created by stuff like MKUltra. But beyond all that, the Bugliosi thing is insane.
But he's dead now.
Bugliosi's dead.
Okay, so
that's the prosecutor who put Manson away, right? Who wrote Helter Skelter, one of the most best-selling books there is out there, all these true crime awards. And that's like the official narrative about the Manson case that Tom subverts with all of his reporting, right? In terms of lying, suppressing evidence, or you know, people who Manson was in jail and then let out, and he was breaking parole. Like, how did that happen? You know, stuff like that. So the Bugliosi thing, I mean, this is something that's so important for people, and it's something that parallels a lot of my reporting for the Long Island serial killer case, which we talked about a few episodes ago. The authorities are so deranged. Obviously not all of them, but in so many cases, it's like you can't trust anyone when these things. And that's why I asked Tom about how do you discern information? Because you don't even know what you're getting is right. And there's a part in his book where he's saying, you know, there's like some police or investigators saying, you know, if you give me this information, we'll get back to you the second we have more information. And he felt in his gut maybe he shouldn't, and he did, and then they just disappeared. And then he's getting no more insights. And there's a constant like cloud of like conspiracy, corruption happening behind the scenes that's just as evil, if not more so, than the evil that's on the headlines, right? And like Bugliosi, this guy, I mean, he only told you a little bit, but he like the milkman was, he believed, sleeping with his wife. He stalked him. It's so scary that those people exist and that they're in so much power, and running for office like he was. He was trying, I forget what he was trying to be, maybe running for mayor or something, but he was running for office, which is when those stories broke out, being like, hey, this guy's a madman. Maybe don't elect this person because he's a psychopath, which is insane because he was so famous, right? And people have this idea of him like, well, how can he have been so bad if he was so popular? You know, how could I get away? How could he get away with this stuff? But in my mind, is he get away with it because he's protected by a system of compartmentalization and other people who are just as bad as him. I'm not saying everyone in that world in the authorities is bad, but I think a lot of them might be, at least the ones in power. And like, you know, I've said before about the serial killer case I've been writing about, the commissioner and I believe he was the chief both went to prison. While the investigation was going on. And there's so many stories about them being involved in crazy, possibly satanic orgies in that town where those women were found. And that's just one thing, right? So I just urge people to read that book. And I also agree with him on the weird scenes inside the canyon. It's a great book, but it's very tangential. But it's great. It's a great starting place for people who want to see like what I see as the beginning of what would culminate into Manson at the end of the 60s. Because it's basically, his thesis is the counterculture is infiltrated by people within the government. You know, he makes a lot of connections that are true, but it's hard to know if those connections amount to anything.
I mean, could it just be like he wanted to start a cult?
Well, Manson, I think, in my mind, did just want to start a cult. You know, kind of like the CIA.
So that's why they used him.
Want to start a cult. But I think him starting the cult might have been a consequence of the symptoms of the MKUltra.
It's all connected in some way.
I think it's weird because you have to parse through all the coincidences and all the conspiracies and all, like, everyone has a different angle on it.
How do you get to a point of like creating MKUltra? Like how you're in this position, you're just like, yeah, let's just create this thing because we can fuck with people's minds.
Like Tom was saying, we don't really know yet. At least I don't know if we know that we were doing it before the 50s, before like Operation Paperclip. Like so that's when we brought in all the Nazis that were scientists and we hired them. And I just started reading the Sidney Gottlieb book, who basically oversaw MKUltra. And I'm not to the point yet where they're saying all this, but I believe it's building to the point where we talk about biowarfare researchers that were Nazis who were hired and brought on. We started doing all these experimentations on people. So I think we bring in people to experiment, and Tom's one possible argument would be like to learn how to have these better soldiers and fight war, which I have a hard time thinking that's an actual good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good because it seems to always backfire. Whenever you try to like play God and manipulate people's brains, it doesn't work out.
I wouldn't think so.
It doesn't work out. And I think they want to, in this race to be the best military industrial complex, which is when all those things are accelerating. They were like, how do we create a super soldier? How do we create these Manchurian candidates? How do we infiltrate subcultures that are trying to subvert us and destroy them? Like I brought up COINTELPRO and Operation Chaos, and we learned through the church committee that there was all these secret operations going on that were infiltrating the subcultures, like the anti-war movement, like Martin Luther King or Malcolm X and stuff like that. And I believe even people in the government recently were held accountable for Malcolm X's assassination. Yeah. Which is funny to me. It's not funny. It's depraved. But
I'm starting to think that everything is planned and everything is a conspiracy.
A lot of it is, and I have a hard time drawing that. Where's the line? Because I sort of said this to Tom, but like you can really get in the weeds of things when I'm talking about how the year before the Tate LaBianca murders, Roman Polanski did a movie called Rosemary's Baby, right? Yeah. That's a crazy movie. Yeah. The book is so insane. It's one of my favorite like horror novels. It's really a scary book.
Yeah. It's a scary movie. It
yeah.
Really is.
And then, so a year later, he's in London working on a movie he never did because of the murders called Day of the Dolphin, where the book is about basically a mad scientist training dolphins to assassinate the United States president, which is based on a novel, which is then based on a character in real life. Like he said, I believe John Lilly is the name, who was one of these scientists, like Jolly West, who were working with LSD and experimenting on humans and brains and building these types of super soldiers. So all that's happening, and then it's just so bizarre that like there's those things in the culture already, and then Manson, and then he uses like it just is it coincidence? Yeah, I don't know. It's just that's a far reach though to go that deep into the details and think that there's something more to it, because that's like true evil planning.
It's not enough for me. I feel like I need more reasoning.
Oh well, in terms of reasoning, I think they created someone. I don't know if Manson was just a backfire or an experiment gone wrong, or if he was unleashed to destroy this idea of American innocence.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say this now about like anyone that's a serial killer.
Yeah, I think there was something about murdering celebrities in Beverly Hills, and like it wasn't just celebrities. It was like I think the heiress or the heir or both of Folgers Coffee. Okay. Like these like institutions, like Rosemary's Baby is obviously a popular film. They seem like it seemed like even people who feel like they should be protected by everything because their money and their wealth and their stardom, they're not safe. Yeah. That's why I feel like they were targeted. Like I feel like all these people were targeted by Manson and whoever was pulling the strings to send a message that would ripple across, because it changed like the subconscious of America from what I've heard. Yeah. Right. In the same way that
because of Sharon Tate ultimately, or just
Tate, her being pregnant. Yeah. Like Helter Skelter was basically arguing that this was to incite a race war. Right. And it was like, that's why they wrote Pig, and Manson had this idea that they did talk about at Spawn Ranch about we're going to create racial division and basically destroy everyone while they'll be underground and emerge to repopulate Earth. Right. It was like this very weird dystopian, I don't know what religion, cult, obviously. Yeah. But what Tom is saying is perhaps that's not the full story.
Yeah.
And maybe that was applied to Manson to create a certain image. And my thing is like, I really believe MKUltra was being used and he was a victim of it. And he was like this monster created by it, as are others. But on top of that, I believe it was a symbol about the death of America in many ways. And the 60s were just a system of symbolic deaths for the country, like
but we're still
JFK's
kind
assassination.
of going through that.
I think we're now in like, if the 60s, like I was saying, with weird scenes inside of Laurel Canyon where they supposedly, the CIA supposedly infiltrated the counterculture in Laurel Canyon, where they had Mountain Overlook Observatory on in Laurel Canyon, where they supposedly filmed all these like propaganda films, and big stars and starlets would go to film this stuff to kind of engineer a narrative about America and celebrity and the audience, and you know what the dream is and all these things. All that culminates into, in my opinion, the murders, the Tate LaBianca murders. And then we could zoom out more, and I would say that perhaps we're in that evolution of that depravity and CIA infiltrating subversive groups right now with digital media.
So it's finally working?
Oh, I think there is mass hypnosis happening. I think whatever they learned in MKUltra and how to replace memories and how to dose people, I fully believe that they found a way to do it remotely with technology or with drugs or with the food you eat. Who knows? I do think that. Like when I'm talking about the mass murders, and you know, Tom was saying when he sees certain mass shootings or these horrible crimes happen, he can't help but think about it. And then people hit him up being like, "Oh, what do you think?" It could just be people are insane, you know, and that happens. But when you know these things, it's kind of like what I say when people talk about false flags, right? And that's, false flags are real.
Yeah.
We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff presented Operation Northwoods to JFK, which was to turn violence on the American citizens and then blame that on Cuba to start a war. So when you know these things happen, it's hard to then not apply that
to everything.
To everything. But you have to be careful because it's not everything.
And you also can't really prove it.
I mean, not yet, you know, but it's hard to know because I think what we learned in the church committee is only the surface. You know, like we like Tom was saying, they got rid of a lot of the MKUltra files. We don't even have all of them because they destroyed them all supposedly. Right. So it's hard to know. But I think we're in the evolution of this hypnosis brainwashing campaign for control, for power, for greed, to create chaos, no pun intended. But that's to me, it seems like that's the case. You know, you look at how social media, we were talking last week with Ian Carroll about fake realities. This to me is a part of that. This is the engine of that. This is like they create these false narratives and fear to control people. And I think it's even down to little things. And this could be crazy. I could just be crazy. But it's down to little things. Even like I was just talking about this yesterday on Twitter. Memes where people are divided over a meme, like the blue dress, gold dress thing. Right. Like that wasn't to me, and could be crazy, is a form of perception control and challenging one's perception, and people doing it en masse and being like, you're looking at the same thing but seeing something different. That's very interesting, and I'm sure it's interesting to people who are studying psychology and perception. They didn't stop. They didn't stop doing this stuff. They kept doing it for sure.
Just doing it in a different way.
And you know that guy who took the picture of the dress murdered his wife.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It's crazy.
Was she in the dress?
She wasn't in the dress, but the picture was, I think, just of the dress. Okay.
But she was in there.
Yeah, imagine. And again, it could just be crazy stuff. And this is why I was asking Tom, like, about the idea of paranoia. You know, it's hard to know when to stop. You have to keep yourself tethered to whatever your sense of reality is. You have to have an anchor to something, because you can drift away from all this stuff. And like I know that from my reporting with the serial killer stuff, when you're in so deep, you're like, how do I even get out of this? It's like now you're looking at the chief of police is a possible murderer, like the commissioner is corrupt.
You also got to be careful because you don't know where this is going to lead for you. And, you know, you might end up off grid, honestly.
I might have to at some point, honestly.
Well, you're in West Virginia, so you're almost there.
But there's no such thing as off grid anymore because they have...
Because they can find you anywhere.
They've got satellites mapping
drones.
The Earth at all times. So
Jeez.
It's wild. But there's nothing you can do other than keep yourself, I think, informed. You know, someone might say to me, well, I'd rather be ignorant of all this.
Sometimes I feel that way. Honestly.
You do?
Yeah.
I don't. I would rather know and be on the cusp of paranoia.
Really?
And knowing that I should be hopefully in control of it.
Yeah.
And knowing that there is a line that you could go too far in terms of being a paranoid schizophrenic to some degree. But I think I would rather know that there are so many evil forces out there trying to manipulate my sense of reality and also trying to hurt my children in their sense of reality, right?
Yeah.
In all forms,
right?
Media, food, you name it.
See, but I can't live that way.
No?
I just can't. No, because I want to live my life, you know, and my kids have to also, and I'm raising small children. And,
well, that's why you got to be the anchor to people who...
You know, you just keep me posted, Shane.
I know. And I also know it's hard to have these conversations all the time with people you're close with because it drives people crazy.
Oh, I refuse to almost have them with anybody, except for people close to me because, I mean, people are just crazy. You know, even family, they don't want to hear it. And, you know, if you don't have all your facts in check, God, forget it.
You should see me at parties. But that for me, it's like
I'm gonna bring you to my next party. I'm like, instead of a clown, we have Shane.
To me, it's a process of elimination to be like, well, who can I let my kids be around? Like, are you plugged in to how deranged the world is?
But that's hard because I mean, I got family members, and I'm like, we probably should just cut ties. And at the same time, it's just like, well, but you're my family, so what do you do?
Yeah, it's not healthy for everyone to know, but I also wonder if more people knew about this, if it would help stop it. You know, because because people live in ignorance. They just do. They don't want to know either. Yeah. Really, the majority. You know, it's hard to know, and it's scary because this stuff with Manson and the CIA is like that's surface almost.
Yeah.
Like you're going below, but there's so much darker stuff going on.
I mean, you can't even get people to not watch corporate press.
I know. It's tough. They have become the authority on quote unquote truth.
Right.
So it's really hard to break that spell.
Yeah.
Speaking of spells, Charles Manson,
yeah.
MKUltra, and I think that's an extension of the mind control campaign, which is scary, but it's the reality we occupy. And it's not just us doing it. We obviously hired Nazis because they were doing it. And we gave immunity to the Japanese who were doing Unit 731, human experimentations like vivisection on people and freezing people's hands and putting them in isolation tanks to figure out how to wash their minds completely. And I think we said this off camera with Tom, but like there was entire places, I think it was a big place in Canada where we were just inducing comas in people for months to see if we could just wipe the slate clean.
Yeah.
Tabula rasa, I believe is what it means, to have a clean slate and just see if what can we build back with you.
I would like to have a reset button in this country, if you know what I mean.
A lot of this stuff's gonna have to end unless they have it their way. Their reset button is
I mean, it's
really
like, whose
bad.
Reset button are we talking about here?
Right, you got to be really careful with the reset button.
Yeah.
But that is what I think they're trying to do. I think they're trying to sever your sense of reality so they have a better control of you over fear.
And I think we're getting further away. I know last week we were talking about it with Ian Carroll and the more we talk about it, the more people know and all this. But I think we're getting further away.
I hope so. I think the fact that more people are thinking about this and like they don't have to make it their identity because like I said, you get carried away.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of theories out there where people just start seeing things that aren't there. Because it's hard when you're connecting all these dots that are easy to connect. Like you can see documents or like this is that. You can spin out of control. I've been there with these like true crime stories and all these corrupt politicians and police officers. It's easy to get there. But like we were talking with Ian, like with the success of Tom's book, with the success that Ian has with his live streams where he's just going through documents. There's a real hunger out there for people to be like, I want reality.
Yeah.
Or at least I want to know the other side of this reality.